Hey, good morning, I should say. I'm used to doing this type of weather coverage in the afternoon. So good morning. It is 10:16 a.m. Jumping on some digital platforms here to talk about our snow squall warnings. Also explain what they are. For some of us, this is the first time we've ever gotten an alert like that on our phones. And we're just going to update you on how things are progressing. So that's what we'll do here is just spend a little time around the digital mahogany roundtable and talk about some of the things that we are seeing out there in central Illinois. First off, here's a look at radar 1017. I'll start and say that we are actually warning free now in central Illinois. There are no more snow squall warnings in effect. They've been allowed to expire. And here's why. That band of heavier snow is kind of losing its steam, which is some good news here. A lot of times with these snow squalls, this one came right down Lake Michigan. I think the thermal gradient, the warmer waters of Lake Michigan, the colder land there helped to generate this here. And then as it continued to move south, then it wasn't attached to that warmer lake waters where that instability was. It kind of loses steam here with what's going on. But again, from the warning side, there are no more snow squall warnings in effect. However, that doesn't mean the wind hasn't stopped, and it doesn't mean we still can't see impacts, but we are certainly seeing things look a little different for us here with how things are looking. So again, time now is 10:18, and we're just going to walk through some of those things here. So let's get started. First off on radar, I'm going to loop this for the last 3 hours, and you'll see that band, how it really moved in our direction and started to lose some steam there. And I'm going to back it up the last 6 hours, and you'll get to see how basically it rode its way down Lake Michigan here through Chicago. Chicago really got walloped this morning. And then once it gets into our area, it kind of started to lose its steam. Thankfully, it got far enough from the lake there. There's still some snow and there's still some wind, but we're not seeing the heavy, intense bands that we saw in some parts of the area there. And so that's what we're dealing with. These snow squall warnings, again, some of us had them issued. This is what it looked like for a little bit here the last couple hours. Until 10 a.m., it was for Benton, Ford, Iroquois, Livingston counties. Again, we're past that point. But that's for the snow squall warning. If you've got that alert on your phone, then the reason being is because of the impacts that we can have to travel. Now, there is still some light snow showing up here for parts of Iroquois, Ford County down into the Champaign area of Vermilion County. And we're seeing that. But notice how these deeper blues over the last hour really erode away. Those deeper blues are more heavy snow, so they probably got a good thumping up in Chabans and Donovan, Martinton, places like that. But as we move to the south, we're still having flurries fly, just not of the intensity that we did earlier here. And you can see then even into McLean County how earlier in the Bloomington area, they got walloped pretty good. But that band is also weakened pretty quickly as it moved to the south. So not as much concern for the intense travel impacts. A lot of times with these snow squalls, you ever on social media and you see the big national news stories about huge crashes, or you see, 90 car pileup in Michigan, or New York gets 150 car pileup, things like that. The conditions these snow squalls produce are often responsible for those. And so that's why the greater concern is there. And that's why they go ahead and issue those alerts for travel impacts, particularly here with what we're seeing. So let's walk through real quick. What is a snow squall? Again, a snow squall is a heavy, intense band. It's very sudden also. They're very similar to, think of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings here. 15 minutes, it's fine. And then in 15 minutes, you get the storm of a lifetime coming on through. Same idea with these snow squalls here is when they start their sudden onset of an intense burst of wind and snow. And they can produce pretty fast whiteout conditions there. Some of those cameras up north, Kankakee, even Gibson City and Bloomington for a period, even up towards the Chicago area this morning. Visibility was really bad. Chicago rush hour was not fun this morning. And the other part of that, too, is temperatures are dropping so quickly. Let's throw some moisture on roads that just haven't gotten treatment because, again, the snow squall, not totally anticipated to be this far south, but we had a little moisture on those roads. And then we dropped the temperatures. Temperatures are dropping very quickly behind that. And so you get those flash freeze conditions where it ices up quick. It becomes snow covered quickly, and where that heaviest band is. And they're short duration too. Again, this isn't like a winter storm where you have hours and hours and hours of ice and snow and rain, all that kind of thing. It's usually a short duration, less than 2 hours. Sometimes it's 15, 20 minutes at the most of intense snow that comes on through. And so those warnings then, they're issued more like severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings. They're shorter length, 45 minutes to an hour, just like those other types of warnings would be. And because they're very sudden, over the years, the social science showed that with these snow squalls, people wouldn't expect them, didn't really have awareness about them, and they would just drive into them, and it'd be a blinding wall of snow all of a sudden. And that's when you get those pileups. So by getting those wireless emergency alerts out, by getting those push alerts out through cell phones, through apps, things of that, this alerts people that are driving who aren't watching TV, aren't sitting at home, are out and about. They get the alert and they get awareness for that. And that's the key for that there. And, an ounce of prevention is worth a cure, or whatever people say for that saying there. But you see, that's the mentality of those alerts and why they get sent out. And think of it this way, too. Anytime we get a big winter storm, the interstates always just turn into a real mess. And the reason for that is because think of all the out-of-state drivers passing on through who aren't following our local forecast here in Central Illinois. There's people passing through heading to grandma's house in 2 states over. There's semi-truck drivers hauling loads from one side of the country to the other, right? So they're not getting that local forecast. These snow squall warnings in particular, they're getting those updates very quickly and awareness of that. So again, an ounce of prevention is worth a gallon of cure, or whatever. I'm not here for any saying. You know what phrase I'm trying to say there. So that's what we've got for us with the snow squall warnings and why they were issued for our area. Okay, the wind. Some of you said, listen, just because the heavy, intense burst of snow isn't there, the wind is. Look at these wind gusts. Last wind gust, 48 miles an hour. 48 mile an hour in Champaign. 36 in Danville. We had a 46 in Springfield earlier. 48 mile an hour wind gusts in Champaign right now. The wind is something else. I mean, it is huffing and puffing and blowing like crazy out there. That's the front that's swinging on through, that Arctic front. And so even in the absence of the snow here, it's windy and it's cold. It's raw, right? So that's certainly something that some of you were commenting. The wind is going to be what's responsible for those power outages in the area. In fact, let me just look at the power outage map real fast because some of you are saying in the comments, I think I saw Catlin had some power outages. Let's zoom on in here. Looks like Vermilion County's got about just under 700 customers that are out. We've got a smattering of customers elsewhere in the area, hit and miss, that are out. There's probably something that's happened in a spot or two and taken that out. I mean, the wind is no fun here. So this would be what I would say would be more responsible for the power outages. The snow would be more responsible for any impacts on roads. And look at the wind. It feels like 13 degrees now in Champaign. 13 degrees, 19 in Danville. Things dropped in a hurry out there. Still feels like 24 in Effingham, 10 in Pontiac, and in Watseka. And you'll see here, Future Track continues to bring this band as it works its way to the south and east of the leading edge. Again, not as intense as now, but still going to be some moderate snow perhaps in pockets out there. But it's very quick. It's out of here by lunchtime into the afternoon. We still got some clouds in the eastern half of the area, some sunshine to the west. Folks in Springfield, Lincoln, Taylorville, Jacksonville, what are you talking about this morning, right? Nothing happening over there. But here in this side of the market, the I-57 corridor, where the action is here for this morning. So again, looking at our current alerts, we do not have any snow squall warnings in effect for our area anymore. I'll pop that up. But up in northwest Indiana, the lake effect snow machine going to turn on. They have winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings there. So again, we don't have snow squall warnings. We had those earlier, but now we're all aware about that. We know what they are. A little education here about those alerts and why they are important. Let's take a look at those travel conditions while we're at it out here. And then we're going to look at some of the sky cams in the area. And in fact, why don't I pull up the Neal Street camera real fast, take a peek at that here. And that'll show us what's going on in the ground. 48 mile an hour winds. Even if there's light snow, that snow is blowing sideways through our area. And it'll pop up here in a second. Sometimes it's a little slow, a little grumbly in the morning. Looks like not a whole lot of snow coming down at this point, but with temperatures dropping, some of those roads are a little wet out there. There's still maybe, even with very limited amounts of moisture, there's still maybe some areas of ice that can form pretty quickly in those areas. The latest from IDOT here, and the IDOT traffic view for us. And let me pull up the graphics real quick here. First off, no warnings again for the area anymore. We had those snow squall warnings. You're going to see that first, and then I'm going to switch the palette over. But Chicago rush hour this morning was brutal from this snow squall that came in through. A couple of the interstates have been closed because of major crashes, and they've had some real rough problems up there. And let me see here. Here's the IDOT road conditions. So look at the DMA map up here, and then I'll adjust it and show you the state. Maybe it wants to work. It may not. Let me switch this here. Sometimes graphics get a little squirrely on you in the morning, right? I'm not a morning person. I don't think our computers are either here. So Perhaps it's still loading a little bit there. It's on the little slower side. That's okay. We'll get it to pop up. Here we go. Looks like it's starting to carry on through. So we are seeing those conditions are looking partial to mostly in parts of Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois County. And, of course, there we go. There you can see here some of those blue spots here. Look at just north of our area, though. I mean, it's been rough up there in the Chicago metro. And that's Will County. That's an old observation that's degraded right here. But that's in the blue and pink as well. Kankakee County, northern Iroquois County, northern Livingston counties, Ford County probably having some of those issues as well. And again, this isn't perfect when you look at it. It's not exact, but it gives us an idea where those worst travel spots are. I suspect there's a few spots a little slick into McLean and southern Ford County from that snow that came on through. And so that certainly is something that we will be experiencing. And then the problem again is with those temperatures as they continue to drop here. Temperature-wise, we are sitting at, we'll pull up the map here real quick. I'll just pull up the state map so you can take a peek at that. It is cold out there for sure. The temperature is what we care about. It can be a 12-degree wind chill like it is in Champaign right now. But if the air temperature is still 33, water won't freeze, right? We care about the air temperature for water freezing. We care about wind chill for the effects on you and I and on our pets, things like that. And the lower the wind chill is for the actual temperature, the quicker temperature of things will drop. So it's 29, feels like 12. The ground is cooling off quickly. Bridge is cooling off quickly. So anything that's untreated, icing up there, 22 Chicago, 25 in Peru. You can really see that cold air coming in here. Still 35 at Effingham, 43 down in Carbondale. But that gives you an idea of what's going on around the state. All right, here, I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time. I'll answer any questions you have in a minute. And just note, this is kind of the welcome party, I guess you could say, for winter here, as we've got that cold air that's moving on in. But overall, I think we're starting to see cold air come and the wind is impactful. The snow maybe not as big of a problem for us here in our area at this point. We're still getting it. And a number of you have put in the comments, it's still coming down. That wind is pushing it sideways for sure. But that is what we are looking at there. So kind of monitoring things with that. All right. Again, you can kind of see here, still some snow showers making it down. Douglas, Moultrie County, Champaign, Vermilion, Iroquois, Ford County. And I want to see if I can get my phone. I'll show you some of the video I got. Here we go. I think I'm actually going to get it. The video that I got, let me bring it full here real quick. And we'll show you that. So this is video from Gibson City. And that's what that intense snow band that came on through. I mean, it was coming down real quick there in our area. And you can see that, again, one of the views that we had. And then here's another one. This one was the one that stands out the most to me here. Look at the snow on the trees. Look how heavy that's blowing as it comes out there. It looks like a thunderstorm and rain, but it's snow. You get 50-mile-an-hour gust plus and blowing snow, and that's certainly going to cause some problems. And so there are some slick spots up there. And it sticks pretty quickly as well. And it didn't just kind of lightly flurry, but will turn pretty rough in a hurry with conditions like that. But again, thankfully, we're seeing those conditions kind of relax a little bit here as things move on through. So that's what we're looking at. All right, so I'm going to check any questions we have. Again, one thing to note, there is a special weather statement that's been issued. Zachary mentioning that. Yeah, so we went from snow squall warning down to special weather statement. Special weather statement is used for conditions that can be, I wouldn't say hazardous or life-threatening. That's the warning, right? But that special weather statement is for when conditions can sometimes be more of a nuisance, right? Maybe it just kind of impacts things a little bit more. But we could experience that and see that here. So we're going to have the wind continue. That is a given for us here with the way things look. And I'll just see what the National Weather Service said. They're saying hazardous conditions still possible this morning. And gusty winds near 50 mile an hour, reduced visibility to 1 to 2 miles at times. Temperatures also will fall. So they're saying there is some hazardous conditions, but it's not as widespread and significant as when that snow squall comes on through. So, so we can we'll still expect that here, but it's not quite as immediate or life-threatening. But still, I would just expect there to be some pockets here and there, and that's going to include all the way down into Coles and Edgar County as well, with that special weather statement. So Sullivan as well, Decatur, Champaign-Urbana, Danville, Charleston, Mattoon, Monticello, Bloomington, places like that. And I think by this afternoon, I think by lunchtime, let me just run you through Future Track as well. Future Track didn't really do a good job for us here this morning. with this coming on down. We knew it was going to be windy. That was the big story. We knew there was a chance for some snow showers, but to have this intense band that approached and it gave us the snow squall warnings, that was a little bit on the unexpected side here. And so we'll take future track with a grain of salt. It did finally catch on this morning, and it does catch on in the notion that we get to 12 and 1. Most of that band should be out of here. There may be some flurries still on the backside under that cloud cover there, but we will expect to see some of those conditions continue to deteriorate. And then by 2, 3 o'clock, I mean, there's still some clouds and flurries there, but we're not seeing a big band come on through that leading edge of the cold air. So we'll, you can see the lake, look at that. That's the lake effect. That's why there's those winter storm warnings in Northwest Indiana from that. So kind of watching that here. Again, future track, take it with a grain of salt in some of these situations. If it doesn't start right, it won't look right on through, and it hasn't started right for a while. So sometimes you just have to now track things, and we're watching radar and seeing what's moving on through and watching those trends. There's still probably going to be some flurries down to I-70, but I don't think we'll see quite as impactful from the snow side. All of us, though, getting the wind, all of us getting the cold coming on in, and it is going to still snow, but it won't be like a micro blizzard, if that makes sense with how things are. So that's what we have. Okay, questions. We'll roll on through. Wow, 48 in Champaign. That's crazy. It is windy out there. Linda asking about power outages again. I think this is going to be the case. Gene saying it's out in parts of Catlin. We've got snow blowing sideways in Tilton. Power went out before the snow hit. Is that normal? Shelby asking that one. It's going to be the wind. The wind started before the snow. So something happened somewhere, and maybe localized. Maybe it came back on briefly, but that is going to be. We're looking at Jenny saying the wind is terrible on I-74. There's east-west roads. Think about, going this way with the crosswind. You're going to the west, it's out of the right. You're going to the east, it's hitting in your left side there. Susan's saying it's a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I feel like that's mixing metric systems, but with imperial system, but whatever. We'll trust that. Yeah, here's one. Jenny's saying it's freezing. The temps dropped so fast. Again, when that wind hit, that leading front came on through, it meant business. And so that's why we're seeing that. Jeannie's saying, again, Catlin out of power. Another report there. Ogden, power is out for many. And Hillary is saying her power went out after flickering like 10 times there. Oakwood out of power. Fairmount out of power. I wonder if the numbers. Okay, Vermilion County is now 3,600 customers out of power and about 400 in Champaign County. So that definitely went up since we last checked it there. Just put a post up, and then I'll go talk to Peter. He was in here earlier. Seeing that there. Tori saying power's out at the school in Ogden. And then Michael saying, once this passes, we're done, correct? Looks pretty winter-like in the 7-day forecast there with more of those batches of snow coming and going. So it's going to stick around for a little while. Friday's a little bit milder. We'll hop up above freezing. But as far as today goes, I think yes, but impactful winter weather expected at some point here with the batches of snow. And I really think, too, by the end of next week, that's when I think the winter machine really cranks the dial, tries to bring some stuff our way. So we'll keep an eye on that. Oakwood, Muncie, Fithian out of power. Wind is horrible in the Sodoris country area. Sideways snow in Milford. Whiteout conditions in Thawville. Again, it's the wind that's pushing that snow around. And then wind's bad in Mattoon. So that's what we expect. All right, I'm going to leave you to it there. I'm going to go check with news. And we will keep an update on things here, but anticipate it to be windy today, some sideways snow. I don't think it's heavy, blinding blizzard-like snow. I don't think it's a big impact. There's some of us that could get a quick dusting and some snow showers. It's just cold. Nobody likes today. We knew it was going to be a nasty day, but weather tried to add an extra nasty to it. So that's what we got. All right. Thanks for watching here. That is all. I'll have updates live on WCIA 3 News at noon. If there's any information, we'll post it online on our articles, on things like that. And let us know as well if you've got